So January 8th, Vision Sunday. You guys, I'm so excited to be sharing this. What I want to say, I want to make a statement before we dive into sharing numbers and data and pictures and a short little video that I wanted to show you, is I want to say this. I talk to a lot of pastors and a lot of church leaders and a lot of parachurch leaders kind of on any given day, any given week. I serve in a voluntary role with an organization called the Church Multiplication Network. They are a church planting organization. I worked for them for a year. Jen and I also received training, and the church received a grant from them, a financial grant from them to help start the church. And so through my role with them, I get to speak with people who are interested in church planting. I get to speak with people who are maybe they're in the process of getting training and stuff, so I get to help with coaching and stuff. So I talk to people from all over the country and sometimes across the world about what it's like to start a brand new church. And inevitably they ask, how's your church going? It's been like a few months now. And one of the typical responses that's expected to be given to them is like, wow, like we have attendance of like 200 or 300 and all this like big, huge, crazy, awesome stuff. And so that's like the anticipated like expectation. And so what I get to tell them, however, is even before we started Legacy Church, I was never one really to be like one of the first things to say in a pastoral conversation is, hey, we're running like 50 people and like this many, that. What we are more interested in is engagement. So we do track numbers, we do track all that kind of stuff. I'm more interested in engagement and health and excitement. No, you can't really measure excitement other than just like feeling it and recording and writing it down. But so what I like to tell people when I'm talking with them is, you know what? We are a small church right now, and God is building a great foundation here at Legacy Church. Just looking across the room, obviously I can't see you online looking at the camera, but I know those of you watching online are a big part of this. But every single person who is part of Legacy Church, I am absolutely thrilled and honored to be pastoring this church and that you're part of it. Because you all do things that I don't ask you to do and that I don't have to ask you to do, that a lot of other pastors have to ask and sometimes maybe even beg for people to do. Man, anytime that we're doing an event, you come out for the event. Anytime we do a small group, you're coming out for the small group. You're inviting friends. You're grabbing invite cards and you're passing them out. And you're excited about things that God is doing here and things that He's doing in your life. And I'm so thrilled that you're doing a lot of this on your own initiative. And so I get to tell this to other pastors, and they're like, well, how many people are attending? I was like, I'm not even going to tell you. Because that's not as important as the people who are there and the things that they're doing and the things that they're experiencing. And there's people who are experiencing hard things, but they're staying true to God and they're following God and they're staying connected to community. And so I get to share stories with them. So I just wanted to tell you, as being the pastor of Legacy Church, man, there's a lot of different things. As a pastor that you try to dream up, that you try to envision about what your brand new church is going to look like before it even exists, before you even get into the room. And there's so many things that I didn't even expect, that I didn't even envision that were going to happen in our first 4 months that ended up happening. And it just blows me away. Just blows me away. And I'm like, you know what, God? I would take our church with the foundation that we have each and every single day over having 200, 300, 400 people that some churches end up having and not having that foundation. And so I just wanted to give you that statement before we start this. I love your guys' generosity. I love your graciousness, your patience. I love the time that you give, the talent that you have. The effort that you give. For those of you that don't know, or maybe this is your first Sunday here, and it's maybe you haven't even thought about this yet. But on any given Sunday, in order to do church in this space, not only myself and Jen, but anyone who's volunteering this morning, we're here at 8 a.m. and we get out of here about 1:30 or 2. So it's about a 6-hour work day of volunteer time. So it's not a small thing. It's a big effort. And so I love your guys' effort. I love your dedication. And I love your motivation. You guys motivate me. You inspire me. And you make every single day worth it for me. So thank you. Thank you very much for being part of Legacy. So why take a day? Why take the next 20 minutes to talk about the past? Why look back and why do that? Well, I have a pastor acquaintance and friend in Ohio. His name is Greg Ford, and he has this saying that he uses at his church. They do a couple different huge church parties every year, and so I've kind of taken on this phrase that their church uses, and it's this: the world parties to forget, but the church parties to remember. The world parties to forget life and to ease the chaos of life, but the church, we party to remember. Now, we're not going to party today. There's no balloons and all that kind of stuff. But we are going to remember. We are going to celebrate. We are going to thank God. We are going to praise God for everything that He's done, because we don't want to forget. Even if it's been tough, we don't want to forget who He is and what He's been doing and the fact that He is with us. So what's Greg getting at when he says something like that? Well, he's getting at a biblical truth, that God wants you and I to remember things that He's done. Whereas when we've lived our lives without God, we've wanted to party, in part to forget what's going on in our life. It's a break, it's a time out. I want to get away from work and just have fun. Well, as Christians, we don't do that. We party to remember. And so what I want to read from the book of Joshua chapter 4, to give you an example of what I'm talking about when I say God wants us to remember things. And it's very important for us to remember things, not only because we forget, but if we forget what God has done, we won't be able to share those stories with our kids, with our friends, with our family, and with people around us. And if too many generations go by, there's a potential for people altogether to forget about God. And so we see an example of this from Joshua chapter 4. I'm going to start off reading verses 1 through 7, and then toward the end of the chapter. But the words will be up for you on the screen. But if you do have your Bibles, I encourage you, flip it open, power it on, and read along with me here in Joshua chapter 4. So what has happened, before I jump in, before we read this really quick, a little bit of context. Israel had been delivered out of Egypt by God through Moses and Aaron. So they left Egypt, they crossed the Red Sea. They spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness, and then they came to the point where they were near the land of Israel. They were in modern-day Jordan, and they were about to cross over into the land of Israel, and the physical border for them was the Jordan River. So the Jordan River runs north and south and is a border to modern-day Israel and the country of Jordan. And it was harvest time. It was the fall. So what that meant was the river there, the Jordan River, it always floods, and it comes up over the banks almost every fall, especially back then. Not as much anymore. But so it always overflowed its banks in the fall. So this thing was dangerous and probably not really passable in the fall time. And so all of the nation of Israel, Joshua leading them, because Moses had passed away, Joshua leading them into the land of Israel is where we come up to here in Joshua chapter 4. When all the nation, in verse 1, had finished passing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, take 12 men from the people, from each tribe a man, and command them, saying, take 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the very place where the priests stood firmly, and bring them over with you and lay them down in the place where you lodge tonight. So they'd already crossed through the Jordan River. And so he's telling them, take 12 stones out of the riverbed. Then Joshua called the 12 men from the people of Israel, whom he had appointed, a man from each tribe. And Joshua said to them, pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and take up each of you a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the people of Israel, that this may be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, what do these stones mean to you? Then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the people of Israel a memorial forever. Then skipping down to verses 20 to 24. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up at Gilgal. And he said to the people of Israel, when your children ask their fathers in times to come, what do these stones mean? Then you shall let your children know, Israel passed over this Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan for you until you passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up for us until we passed over. Verse 24, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the hand of the Lord is mighty, that you may fear the Lord God forever. So here we have an example where God is commanding his people to make a memorial. Why? To remember. Why remember? So that you can tell the stories. Why tell the stories? Why remember? So that God may be known forever. That's why we want to remember. That's why we want to share God's stories. And what I want to do before sharing the rest of this information is Joshua 4 for you personally today. Now, I'm not saying go into the parking lot and try to find 12 stones under the snow and bring them home and make a little cairn in your front yard or whatever. But what I do want to say is an application for you personally today is remember God. Do whatever you need to do to remember events in your present or from your past and remember them and make a time, as I talked last week, make a time to celebrate those things. For example, I happen to know my spiritual birthday, the day that I gave my life to Jesus, because it was a super radical thing that happened to me. A lot of instant transformation and a lot of things happened in a moment for me. That's not the case for all of us. For a lot of us, it was a gradual thing. But for me, it was like an instantaneous thing. It happened for me October 3rd, Friday night, October 3rd, 2003. So what I'm going to start doing this year is not only remembering October 3rd, but I'm going to start having a little birthday party for myself, a little spiritual birthday, because I want to remember. And let me tell you, when I remember that night, when I take time to think about it and talk about what happened that night, I not only remember who I was without Jesus, but I remember who I am with him. And I remember all the things that he did for me then. And I remember all the things that he brought me through since then, and all the things that he's transformed me and created me to be now. And I would be nowhere without him. And so it humbles me. It reminds me of his grace and his goodness and his kindness. And if he can do that for some no-name kid from a no-name family in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota, then he can do that for you. So let's remember him. Find a way to remember him in your life. It's important. It's very important. It's important to God that you do this. Okay, 2022. The mission and vision of Legacy Church is this. Our mission is the thing that we are going to do for the entire lifespan of the church. Our entire existence is to help lead people in a growing relationship with Jesus. If we succeed in any one thing, it's going to be that. As a pastor, I want you to grow in your relationship with Jesus, so everything I do, most of what I say is all targeted to help you grow. If you don't grow here, that is a failure on our part. Okay, that's our view on it. So that mission will never change. That's always going to stay the same. Our vision, however, is seasonal, and the vision can change. And after much prayer, God was speaking to us, and I sort of dragged my feet on it, and I was like, that's a little bit crazy of a statement and an idea and a vision, but God was persistent with me and gracious with me. He said, no, this is what I want you guys to do. And so the vision, so the target and the goal for Legacy Church in our first 10 years is that God would love for us to transform the lives of 5,000 people in the first 10 years of our existence. Now, what that does not mean is that we're not expecting to have 5,000 people sitting in an auditorium on Sunday morning. Again, like I mentioned before, I'm getting some weird feedback. As I mentioned before, I'm not as much concerned about attendance as I am about you growing in your faith and being engaged with what's going on in the life of the church. But God, through us, both in person, online, and through supporting and sending missionaries, God wants us to reach 5,000 people with the gospel in our first 10 years. So what I want to say with that and about the year of 2022 for me, and I mentioned it and alluded to it a little bit ago, is that if you were to ask me what one word would summarize the first 4 months of Legacy Church, or our first year in 2022, it would be foundation. God has planted and solidified a firm foundation for us here at Legacy, and I'm so thrilled about it. All right, so here's some numbers for you that I want to celebrate. Here are numbers I want to celebrate with you and reveal to you. So the first one is we launched Legacy Online on January 9th, 2002, out of a bedroom in our home. We first lived in Eagle River. When we first moved here to Alaska, we now live in Anchorage. But we launched Legacy Online for a few reasons. One, we wanted to start ministry sooner than September, and so we figured, hey, let's do ministry online. And then secondly, we wanted to provide people an opportunity to stalk us and or check us out online before coming in person, because, and I'll share this stat a little bit later. I'll wait to share this stat. Most of us check out a place, a restaurant, a business, a church. We check it out online before we go in person. I know most, if not all of you, saw us, found us, whether it was on Facebook, Google, found our website somehow. You saw us online before you saw us in person. So we thought, you know what, we want to do this. We want to launch this in January. So here's some statistics between January and September for you on the screen. Of videos and services on Sunday that we did, there was 15,816 minutes worth of viewing time. That's 263 hours of online ministry. We reached 9,011 individual people, and there was 2,777 engagements. Engagements means people were commenting on our videos. So we had a huge reach and a huge impact. And get this, we weren't even a church yet. We had met like 5 people before we started doing this, okay? And so we started this from scratch, and man, it was so much fun. And we still do. Sometimes we do live streaming. Other times we do recordings. We're recording this morning, but we post it back up to our website and also onto YouTube after the fact. But yeah, so there's some Legacy Online statistics for you and things that God was able to help us do. The next thing that I want to celebrate is that our launch on September 18th. We launched here at Service High School September 18th, 4 long months ago. And man, it was a great time. I want to share, Jared, we're going to skip the video. Yeah, keep that up there for now. But we'll play that little video next. Hopefully it works. It should work. But anyways, so September 18th, 2022, we had 50 adults and 17 kids show up for our opening service. We had a baby dedication for the Hodgin family. By the way, David and Alyssa are sick right now. I think 1 or 2 of their kids are sick too. So if you guys can be keeping them in prayer. I think Alyssa said she was starting to to lose some taste and smell. So we all know what that means. But be praying for them. And then we also had a salvation as well. Someone committed their life to Jesus. So it was an awesome, fun-filled Sunday. People came and visited. Some we knew, most of you we did not know. So it was an absolute awesome Sunday. And one of the connections that Jen and I made through our relationship with the Church Multiplication Network is a pastoral couple in Texas. They have an English and Spanish-speaking church, and they sent us a video. I think this was like Saturday night, so this would have been September 17th. They sent this to Jen and I. We haven't played this publicly yet, so this was just kind of like a personal thing that they sent us for encouragement. So if we can try to play this video, Jared. There we go. So there were lots of texts, lots of Facebook messages, a couple videos like this that people were sending to us. So I wanted to share that to let you know. And I talked about this several times too. There are so many people and so many churches that are praying for you, not just this church, and obviously they don't know your names or your faces, but they're praying for everyone who lives here in Anchorage, that they meet Jesus, that they grow in faith, in Him and through Him and with Him. And so I just wanted to share that with you. Next thing is I want to share with you our digital reach. I already shared some of our digital reach with doing Legacy Online, but why celebrate these kinds of numbers? Why celebrate digital reach? Because 97.8% of people visit a church's website before they visit in person. Many of those people will watch several weeks' worth of sermons before deciding if they'll ever visit or not. And as I mentioned already as well, most of you here today saw us somewhere online before meeting us in person. And so we realize that the validity of having an online presence is very important. And some of the numbers that I'm going to show you right now are really, I think, are really amazing and really awesome. And what this is going to communicate to me, and I hope communicates to you, is that there are people who are not only seeing Legacy Church, but they're seeing church ministry online. And eventually, people who are viewing Legacy Church may end up coming here and may end up giving their lives to Jesus and may end up connecting to the life of the church and becoming your best friend, and may end up praying for something for you, and you end up getting healed, or you end up getting that raise, you end up getting that job. And they may end up becoming leaders in the church. They may end up becoming a pastor in this church. We don't know. But what I do know is people are seeing us, and eventually they'll get here and into other churches. So just from our presence on Google, whenever someone Googles like church near me, or you just get on Google and you just type in church, or you open Google Maps and you type in church and all the results that pop up, here's how many times that, whether it's on maps or in the search engine, that Legacy Church has shown up. And these numbers are just since September. This isn't since January. This is just the last 4 months. 1,846 unique user views. That means people on not just on different devices, but people at different IP addresses. So this isn't like me opening up my iPad, my phone, my desktop, and my laptop all at my house and like padding these numbers. These are completely different people doing this. 173 people have asked for directions on Google Maps to Legacy Church. So they saw us here and they said, I wonder how long that takes to drive there. And so they did that. The next one is going to be, so these are social media things. We have 858 followers on Facebook, 142 on Instagram, a total of 1,000, which I thought was kind of funny, nice even number for us there. But through both of just those two accounts, we have reached 71,227 people through posts that we have done, both static images and videos. We've had 3,376 unique page visits, meaning that many people have gone to our page and have scrolled through it, is how Facebook determines that. And then 278,000 people, that's rounded there. It was like 277,997, I think is what the actual number. People reached through Facebook ads. So that's how many people have been scrolling around on social media and they have seen Legacy Church. The next one that I want to share with you is financial giving. Here is money. So money, might be a little bit small for y'all to see. But money that we raised before January of 2022 was $150,000. That came from a total of 9 churches / organizations that gave us either one-time gifts or recurring monthly gifts. And then also from an additional 16 individuals who gave us either one-time or recurring gifts, plus a grant that we received and other funds that we received from the fellowship that we are part of. So we're able to raise that money in order to buy equipment, in order to pay rent for the facility that we're in, and all those other items. The total money given in all of 2022, so January through December, was $36,500, and then money given to Legacy Church since September 18th has been $6,400. So I want to say, for me, as a pastor of our church, we have an average attendance of 17 people on Sunday, 17 adults on Sunday. These kind of numbers are crazy for 17 people. And so when I say you all are generous and you are kind and you are giving and you are gracious, this is part of what I mean. So thank you very much for setting such a great tone and a great foundation for us to be able to minister to our community and minister to you as well. Along with this, what I want to share, I don't know if I've said this publicly yet. I've shared this with some of you individually. But one part of the vision that we have for the church, each time I step up there, it gets like that, doesn't it, Jared? I'm going to stay right here. Stationary, Travis. Is one thing we were able to do, I'm going to back up a little bit. One part of our vision to reach 5,000 people in the next 10 years is that once every 3 years, we want to be involved in directly the starting of a brand new church. So whether that's a campus of Legacy, or if you or you know someone who is like, you know what, God is calling me to start a brand new church, we want to partner with church planters to help them start churches. That can be in Anchorage, that can be anywhere in Alaska, it can be anywhere around the world. Okay, so that was, God was like, Travis, once every 3 years I want to do this. I was like, okay, you're crazy, but you're also God, so let's do this. And then a couple of months ago, so it had been like 2 months into the church existing physically, we were able I practically robbed these guys, but we were able to acquire a trailer that we now use and equipment from a church here in Anchorage that had closed and their pastors moved, but we were able to acquire all of their equipment for, again, it was an extremely low price. But what that meant for us was 2 months into this thing, guys, we have enough equipment to start another church. We have an average attendance of 17 people. And when I share this with other pastors and other church leaders and denominational leaders and stuff, they'll ask, like, how many people are in? It's like, all right, well, we average 17 if you want to know, but here's all the cool stuff. And then I tell them, we already have enough stuff to start a second church. They're like, no. They're like, Travis, this stuff doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. I'm like, I know, God's doing it, so it's fine, it's good. But so I wanted to share, I'll have more information about that for you guys next week, but just so you know, we're going to be starting another church sometime in the next 2 years. And then what I want to do lastly here is I want to show you guys and talk briefly about people that we support. So from the very get-go, I almost stepped into the static zone. from the very beginning, pre-beginning even, of Legacy Church, I wanted our church to be generous. Not just those inside of it, but as a church, I want us to be generous with our time, with our resources. And so I was like, you know what, we're going to support missionaries. And I was like, God, how many missionaries can we support? So we currently support, from day one, from September 18th, we support 6 missionaries and 2 church planters. And so I want to show them to you guys, because part of the money that you give goes towards helping to fund these men and women who are doing things all across the world. And so let's go through this. So we support all of these couples and individuals at $25 a month. And the first couple here is Paul and Crystal Burkhart. They are directors of a ministry called Chi Alpha. This is a ministry on university campuses all across the world. And Paul and Crystal lead the one at UAF, so University of Alaska, Fairbanks. They do a phenomenal job there. Hundreds of students are part of and plugged into their ministry. Paul, along with the next couple that I'm about to show you, have started a program here in Alaska where students who are graduating with teaching degrees, they help them get their teaching certificate, and then they also provide them with 9 months worth of training in evangelism and discipleship. And what they do is they help get them job placements in bush communities here in Alaska, and they get those jobs and they bring the gospel there. And they're targeting communities that have no churches, 0 churches. And they're sending these students there as to lay the groundwork of communicating the gospel to then hopefully sometime, someday, to start churches in these communities. Phenomenal work that they're doing. So Paul and Crystal help spearhead that. Next, Stephen and Aaron Pavek, they're right here in Anchorage, University of Alaska, Anchorage. For those of you that were here a few weeks ago, you will recognize Aaron. She was our first ever guest speaker here at Legacy. So they're doing a phenomenal job. Dozens and dozens and dozens of students have been impacted through their ministry the last 7 years, and they continue just to do an awesome job. Stephen actually, he'll be with us again in March. Steve will be here speaking in March, so look forward to having him. Next up, we have Ian and Caitlin McCain. Ian and Caitlin were on staff at an Assembly of God church here in Anchorage on the north side, Crossroads Assembly of God. And they were on staff there for a few years, and then God began to call them to the bush, and specifically to Ammonok, Alaska. So they are there. They just got there right before Christmas, actually, beginning of December. So they are missionary pastors out in Ammonok, pastoring a small and healthy congregation. And they had like 20 kids show up to the first service that they had there as pastors, and they hadn't had kids there in over a year. So very excited about what God is already doing in and through them. Next up, we have Joseph McMahon. Jen and I met Joseph shortly after moving here to Alaska. He was a barista at Kaladi on Tudor, but he was also a student at Chi Alpha. And so we got to meet him, and he is now in India. He is reaching out to Buddhist people there in India. And so he went from Alaska to India, y'all. He's kind of dying, but he loves it. He loves the people, loves the food. He said he misses it not being 100 degrees all the time. But Joe is doing an awesome work there, making really, really good friendships with people who have never met a Christian, people who have never heard the name Jesus, people who have never heard the word church. So he's doing a phenomenal work there, and we love supporting him. We love praying for him. Next up, we have Adam and Alicia Fogelman. They are missionary church planters in the country of Namibia on the continent of Africa, and they are part of an organization called Urban Tribes. So they work to not only plant a church themselves, which they're almost fully funded, and so they'll be on the ground hopefully in the next month or two in Namibia. And so what they do is they target urban centers in Africa. The urban centers on the continent of Africa are the fastest growing cities on the planet. Everyone's leaving rural Africa and moving into the cities, and it's a huge opportunity for the church to reach them and for the church to disciple them. So Adam and Felicia are not only focused and called to plant their own church, but to plant a network of churches throughout urban centers across Alaska. And they're dear friends of ours as well. And then next up, we have Todd and Julene Diedrich. They are church planting missionaries to Oslo, Norway. If you don't know, back in the late 1800s, there was a revival that sparked and broke out, a Pentecostal revival, and it began in Norway and Sweden. And then it eventually made its way over here to the United States in the early 1900s and began several different denominations and all that kind of stuff. So, but Norway is a very spiritually dark and dead place. And Todd and Julene, they're from Wisconsin, and they have been called to go to Oslo. They're almost as well. They're almost fully funded. And another month or two, they will land in Norway, and they'll be able to connect with churches there and begin planting their church as well. Next up, and lastly for these, is there are two brand new churches that we're supporting. The first one here is Max and Keisha Southern. Might be a little bit hard to see. I wasn't able to blow this picture up as big as I wanted. But Max and Keisha planted the Ville Church. They launched on the same Sunday that we did, September 18th. They're in Shelbyville, Indiana. They have some incredible stories of people getting healed and delivered and all kinds of stuff in their community. Max shared with me just the other day. He said that they have had 15 salvations, 10 baptisms, and they have 55 people volunteering at their church. Guys, they when they started this church just a few weeks before it, they had a kids pastor leave. They had two other volunteer leaders just kind of fall off the map and not contact them again. They were down to them and 3 other people to start the church. And he said it was a rough couple of first few weeks, but man, God is doing some awesome work in Indiana, you guys, and I'm so proud to be able to help support them. And then the last one here is Stone and Madison Moss. That's right, his name is Stone Moss, and he's okay if we laugh at that. Stone, that picture's a little bit bright on these TVs to really see them. But they planted a Limitless Church in Springfield, Missouri. They launched a Sunday after we did, September 25th. And God is doing some really amazing things there. Stone grew up in Springfield. In his teenage years, he was a drug addict and was in trouble with the law all the time. And then his family moved away. And then he gave his life to Jesus soon after that. And God began speaking to him about moving back to Springfield to start a church. And he told God, he was like, God, literally any other place on this planet call me to besides Springfield. I do not want to go back there. But then he was obedient. They've gone, and guys, it has been amazing. Stone told me that they have had 23 salvations, 11 baptisms, and they have just a little over 80 people volunteering on their team. They're meeting in a YMCA. They get to do the setup and tear down thing just like us. And then he didn't call it. And then he also shared with me just these stories of life transformation. People just completely addicted to drugs and alcohol coming in, giving their lives to Jesus, and being totally clean and sober from that night out. And so what I want to do here, I had some other stuff to share with you. We're gonna pass over that for now. We got all the important stuff. We've also done a bunch of other things, you guys. We've done 4 different get-togethers, monthly get-togethers. We've had a game night with some VR headset fun where Jen almost fell over playing it. That was really funny for me. We had a bowling night that was super fun on the weekend of Halloween. We did a Friendsgiving over at our house. We did a white elephant gift exchange. Some cups were stolen from other people, and there was some conflict. It was fun. But guys, it's been an awesome time so far. God has done a lot of cool things in a short amount of time with a small group of people. right? And I absolutely love it, and I'm thrilled to be pastoring Legacy Church. And I can't wait to see how God is going to grow you in 2023 and all that God is going to do in you. And I'm also excited to see what God's going to do through you and through this microphone after I beat it backstage. But I'm excited to see what he's going to do through your lives as well. Legacy Church isn't my ministry. It's not Jen's ministry. It's our ministry. We get to do this together with each other, for each other, and for our community. And man, I could stand up here for 3 more hours talking about things I'm going to talk about next week. Next week, I get to share with you all the things that we have planned, all the things that God has put on our mind and on our heart and on the calendar for this year. Guys, it's going to be amazing. Some of these things, I don't know how God is going to do it, but I believe that he's going to do it, and people are going to get saved. We're going to grow in our faith together, and it's going to be awesome. So if you can stand with me, I want to pray over you. And I want to pray over you something that I just echoed at the beginning of service, and also through what we read in Joshua chapter 4. Whether you've had a hard year or a great year or something in between, I firmly believe that if you dedicate, even if it's just today, but if you can dedicate this year and this moment to just remember God. Remember that he's with you. Remember that he's for you. And that can be strength to you. Strength to your soul. Maybe strength to your bones. And I say that as like my right knee is like all stiff and kind of sore. It can be strength to your tendons. But remember God. Remember what he's done. And if you're like, you know what, Travis, I can't think of anything that he's done specifically in my life that I can say, you know what, God did this. Then go to Scripture and see where God healed people. See where Jesus healed the eyes of someone who was blind. See where he lifted them up off their mat because they haven't been able to walk their whole life. And look at the miracles God has done. Those were real people in real places in a real time. And if God did that for them, he can do it for you.